Hi there. Today we're going to be learning about adding and subtracting integers. So take out your notes and let's put the title on there, Adding and Subtracting Integers. And Pig 1 and Pig 2 are here to help us with that. Aren't they cute? Okay, so we're going to start in a place that you know really well. The place that we're going to start is with a problem that is very easy. 3 plus 5. So in the book they have you do this with counters and they use open circles. So you got 3 open circles plus 5 open circles. So the answer would be 8. And if you use a number line to do this, you'd start at the number 3 and you'd move to the right 5 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the important note here is that when you're adding a positive, as we are right here, on your number line, you move to the right. So add positive, move right on the number line. Okay, so now let's move to another problem. Negative 3 plus negative 5. Okay. And you have negative 3 shown with filled in circles, symbolizing the negative. You have negative 3 plus negative 5, so as a total there you have negative 8. And on the number line, if you were going to do that, you'd start with negative 3 right here, and you'd move to the left 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so the note I'd like you to keep in your notes is on the number line, you're going to move left when you add a negative. Okay, hopefully still pretty straightforward. Now it gets a little bit more confusing when you start to do a positive with a negative. So our next problem is going to be positive 3 plus negative 5. So positive 3 is shown with 1, 2, 3 open circles, and negative 5 is shown with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 filled in circles. So what happens here is that one open circle and one closed circle together make 0. So in a sense, they cancel each other out. So the next set would cancel each other out also, and the next set would cancel each other out, leaving us with 2 negatives when we're done. So the answer to this problem, negative 2. Now, if I'm going to use a number line to do it, I'm going to have a starting point of 3 right here, and I'm adding a negative, so now I know that adding a negative means move to the left. So I move to the left 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And my answer is negative 2. Okay, now we've got another problem for you. Negative 3 plus positive 5. So I have negative 3 counters and positive 5 counters. I'll change color now. This one and this one will cancel, make 0. This one and this one will cancel and make 0. This one and this one will cancel and make 0. And what do I have left? Positive 2. If I use a number line, I start at negative 3 and I add positive 5, which means I'm going to move in this direction, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, bringing me to positive 2. So that is adding integers for examples. So now we get into something that's a little bit more difficult, which is subtracting. So I'm not going to use the particle method or the counter method. In this one, I'm specifically going to focus in on the number line method because I think that's going to make the most sense to most people. So if I have, I'll start with the first one, and I'll do the first one in green. 3 minus 5. I start on the number line at 3, and I'm going to subtract 5, which means when I subtract a positive, notice I'm subtracting a positive, I'm going to move to the left, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this way, subtract a positive number, and I get my answer is negative 2. Okay. Notice that subtracting a positive was the same as adding a negative. So keep that in mind. We'll bring that all together at the end. Okay, so now I'm going to erase, because we're going to do the next one. The next one I'll do in blue. I've got 3 plus negative 5. So 3 is my starting point, same starting point. And plus negative 5, excuse me, not plus negative 5, it's 3 minus negative 5. So minus wants to send me this way, but a negative spins me this way. So when you subtract a negative, you actually move right. Subtract a negative. And actually, I'm going to put this from the previous problem. We had said subtract a positive was to move left. Okay, so I have my starting point of 3, and I am subtracting a negative 5, so I'm going to move to the right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I get 8. Now, okay, well, we'll bring it all together in a moment. Then on the upper right, I've got negative 3 minus 5. Okay, so now we have a new starting point, so I'm going to erase the number line part, but I am going to keep our little green and blue note here. Because now I'm starting at negative 3, which is right here, and I'm going to subtract positive 5. So that means subtract positive 5 means I'm going to follow my green path, as I did before. So I start here and I subtract 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I get negative 8. Starting to get perhaps a little confusing. And then for my final one, I'm going to do in black, I'm subtracting negative 5 this time. Subtracting negative means to go this direction. And I'm going to start at negative 3. So I'm going to start at negative 3 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I get 2. Okay, now you may say that's a lot to remember and that's hard to remember. So I'm going to try and simplify it for you in the next step here. Okay. So here are the problems we did, all 8 of them. Okay. Subtracting is just like adding. Okay, because remember, and I'll show you on a number line, that the ones here on the left-hand side correspond to the ones on the right-hand side. Okay, so I'll do the first set in red. My starting point is 3, yes, and I'm adding 5, which means I'm going to move this way because I'm adding a positive. Okay, so I move to the right 5 and I get to 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I get 8. Well, the one over here is exactly the same thing because I'm subtracting a negative. And subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive. So how do I keep that straight? Well, if you look right here, there's minus negative 5. When you see 2 negatives right next to each other, you can put them together and make it 3 plus 5. Those 2 little lines put together make a plus, helping remind me to get to 8. Okay, the next one's going to be in green, and I'm going to keep some of my notes up there. Okay, so the number line piece for the green ones will be the same. I start at negative 3, and I am adding negative 5. When I add a negative, I move this direction. Add negative, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I get negative 8. Well, for the one over here, I'm subtracting 5. So that actually is the same thing, because when I subtract a positive number, it's the same as adding a negative number. Okay, confusing. The number line matches. So how do I do this when I see this problem without a number line? Well, my starting point was negative 3, so that stays the same. But I only have 1 negative in here. So let's think about it as plus, always plus, 1 negative 5. The one above had 2 negatives, which made it just plus a positive. This one becomes plus negative 5. Now negative 3 plus negative 5 becomes easier, perhaps, for your brain to digest. Okay? Next one I'm going to do in a different color, blue. Negative 3 plus 5. So I start at negative 3, and I'm adding a positive. So I'll be following this path right here. And I move 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I get 2. Well, this one over here is the same thing. My starting place is negative 3. I've got 2 negatives, so it becomes plus 5. And negative 3 plus 5 is 2. Final one being in black. I'm going to erase my number line. 3 plus negative 5, I start at 3. I'm adding a negative, so I move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I get negative 2. Over here, I have minus 5, which is going to give me the same number line that I have down below. But instead, I'm going to have start at 3. 1 negative becomes plus 1 negative 5. And I get negative 2. So I do want you to stop doing subtraction and start changing all of your subtraction problems to addition. So now we're going to practice that. You have 4 problems here. Not yet, you can't see them yet. 4 problems here. I want you to pause the video, write them down, and solve them. Every one must be changed to adding. So change the problem to adding properly and then answer. Okay, welcome back. Now, here are the answers. You should have done negative 5 plus negative 10, giving us negative 15. The next one, you should have done 6 plus 16 equals 22. The next one, same starting point as negative 7 plus negative 15 gives me negative 22. And the final one, I'm running out of room, so I'll write it here. I guess I can fit it. 8 plus negative 14 gives me negative 6. Hopefully you had success with those, and if not, just find your mistakes or ask your neighbor some questions. But here's Mr. and Mrs. Pig. Here they're ready to say, yay! But you can't really see them, so I apologize for that. They wanted to congratulate you on a job well done.